Alright, just what is it with Xenoblade games and having some weirdness when it comes to literally just knowing how old characters are? Like, in X, sure, there's an affinity chart which lists the age of everyone, but you have to remember that most of the human characters were in stasis for 2 years while the white whale was going through space on its way to Mira. So, are the ages we see on the affinity chart the same age they were when they got on the ship just before Earth was destroyed, or did they count the 2 years they were asleep onto their ages? Because Lyn being 13 and a brilliant engineer is already pushing it, so does that mean that she was actually 11 when she started at Blade? I don't know. And then for 2, well, screw giving numbers at all. We get ages for exactly 3 characters, one of which isn't even in the game or the DLC itself, and was only talked about in one Japanese interview. So yeah, you might be thinking that, oh, Xenoblade 1's a nice breath of fresh air. We have exact ages for most characters besides some High-Entia and other spoiler people. Well, then Future Connected happened. The base game's fine. Future Connected puts a big wrench in things because of ambiguous amounts of time in between certain events taking place. So I'm just going to talk about this using Shulk as an example because everyone knows Shulk. Spoilers for the main game, but not any Future Connected. It is straight up on the affinity chart that Shulk is 18 during the main game. Now, the thing with the affinity chart is no one's age ever changes throughout the entire story, meaning that of the, 100 or so characters you can get on the chart, apparently no one has a birthday during the entire story, despite the fact that you can easily pass 365 days and there's even an achievement for it. Now, this is obviously story and gameplay segregation. I don't think anyone's going to really deny that. We don't know how long a year on Bionis and Mechonis is, or if the years listed on the affinity chart are years, or those years if they are different in length, but the point stands, you can change the date as many times as you'd like, and no one's age ever changes. What we do know is that Shulk's age doesn't seem to change during the main story no matter what happens. Statistically, there are enough people on the affinity chart where just advancing the date just by the amount of days that are physically shown to pass even just in the main story cutscenes, like it's explicitly the characters sleeping overnight or something like that, statistically, one of those characters would probably have a birthday at some point, so again, there's none of that just because that would be too much to try and keep track of or have characters age in in-game time or something like that. I understand why they didn't do that, but the point still stands, Shulk is still 18 by the end of the game. Then there's a 6-month time skip from beating the final boss to the actual epilogue cutscene where Fiora comes back. And then, on top of that, it's a 1-year time skip to the beginning of Future Connected. It's a little bit ambiguous, and I would understand if you're not entirely sure about this on your first playthrough, whether or not that 1 year is 1 year from beating Zanza, or 1 year from the 6-month time skip to the epilogue scene. At the beginning of FC, before it says 1 year later and has Junks flying into the shoulder, it does show a little bit of just flashes of the ending of the main game, including a shot of Melia from the epilogue, so it does seem like that 1 year later does not include those 6 months. So there is an 18-month time skip from the defeat of Zanza, which is just before that fight is the last time you can check the affinity chart and see Shulk is 18, so there's 18 months roughly between that and the beginning of Future Connected. So, how old is Shulk in Future Connected? We don't actually know, because if Zanza was defeated after Shulk turned 18 and a half, he should already be 20 18 months later. And then we can make an identical argument for literally every other character with a given age in the main game. Is Melia 89 or is she 90? Is Ricky 41 or is he 42? Who knows? We literally can't tell without knowing exactly how long the 6 month later and 1 year laters are, exactly when those are 6 months and 1 year from, and exactly how long the main story took, and exactly how old every character is down to a fraction of a year when the main story starts. So let's take a really extreme example that doesn't actually make sense in canon. Let's say Shulk turned 18 the day he defeated Zanza. Obviously this doesn't make sense, several days are guaranteed shown to pass during the passing of the story, and he's 18 when it starts, but ignore that much. Then let's say that Ryan turned exactly 18 and a half on that same day, and Fiora turned 19 the day after. So, adding 18 months, Shulk is he is absolutely 19, but he's already halfway through that year. He's halfway to being 20. Then Reyn, who is exactly 18 and a half, is now exactly 20. And then Fiora is basically 20 and a half. So there's a really, really big stretch because we don't know how far through being 18 Shulk was. So he could either be like partway through 19 or partway through 20. There's an entire year of wiggle room, and it's enough to change the actual physical number on everyone's age, which I just think it's kind of annoying, just in terms of, I like to know every little weird world building detail. I would have loved a map of Bionis showing where all the other colonies were, and stuff like that, like a bigger map of Alrest showing all the titans you don't go to during the game. Stuff like that is just an extra world building detail I like to have, and a lot of video games just kind of don't do that, which isn't even a knock on any of the Xenoblade games. I just think it would be neat to know exactly that kind of stuff, and if Future Connected's supposed to hint at the future of the series, which it does in some interesting and oblique ways, it would really be nice to know, like, exactly how much time has passed and exactly what age Shulk is if he's going to be plopped into a crossover with some other characters in the future. I'd like to know, okay, how much time has passed since the end of this character's game? How much time has passed since the end of this character's game? Stuff like that. I just think it's helpful to know as someone who likes overanalyzing this entire series, and it's not really a complaint about the game itself, it's just, yeah, this is a thing that I think was interesting enough to merit talking about. So, yeah. Next time, I'm probably going to react to the Pyre and Mithra presentation and cry about the fact that there's no Xenogears or Xenosaga representation at all in it. So until then, this is Luxin, sign off.